I came home after a long day at work, anticipating a relaxing evening. My wife, Bethany, was sitting downstairs watching one of her favorite shows, and our daughter, Corey, was chatting on the phone with a friend, as 16-year-olds often do. I walked past her room, about to say goodnight, when I heard a snippet of conversation that made me freeze. "Yeah, Mom was with him again last weekend," she said in a mundane tone, like it was the order of the day. I stopped at the door, not intending to eavesdrop, but curiosity overcame me, and I could not help myself. "She has been dating him for a long time. Can you believe it? And she is not even trying to hide it," Corey continued, a slight laugh in her voice. My stomach twisted, and a wave of nausea came over me. It did not take a detective to figure out what was going on. Bethany had a lover she'd met more than once, and Corey knew it. My heart pounded so hard I barely realized what was happening. Was it really true? The woman I thought was my nearest and dearest was deceiving me by leading a double life? I felt a chill inside, hoping I was wrong, that this was all a misunderstanding. But Corey kept talking, adding details I wished I could forget. Sometimes she asked me to cover for her in case someone calls. Her voice lowered, and I barely caught the last words. "Dad would never believe it. He does not suspect anything at all. Mom's learned how to hide perfectly." A bitter chuckle escaped before I could stop myself, and I hastily covered my mouth, afraid Corey would notice my presence. Stepping back, I tried to calm my panic and comprehend what I'd heard. My own daughter knew about the affair and had helped cover it up. The pain I felt was made even worse by the realization of this betrayal. I went downstairs, feeling like I was in a fog, and sat down on the couch, unable to collect my thoughts. Bethany was sitting nearby, engrossed in her show, her face lit up by the light of the screen, so calm and ordinary. How long had she lied to me? How many times had she left me in the dark to spend time with someone else? And how many times had Corey covered for her, weaving lies to hide the truth? It was hard for me to look at Bethany, but I forced myself to remain calm. There was no way to have a showdown right now. Without proof, it would give her the opportunity to turn around, assuring me it was all made up. I had to think through each step, gather my thoughts, and decide how to proceed. For the rest of the evening, I tried to act as usual, though every move was difficult. Bethany, absorbed in her show, did not notice my tense silence. She laughed with the characters on the screen while I sat there, feeling my life crumble before my eyes. When night fell, I went to bed next to her, but sleep did not come. I stared at the ceiling, endlessly replaying Corey's words in my head. My thoughts took me back to the past, to memories that had once brought me joy. I thought back to our wedding day, the years we spent together, the moments that seemed the most meaningful. It all seemed different now, like a lie hidden under a mask of marital happiness. Bethany had betrayed me, and it was even more painful to realize that our daughter was involved. Corey, who I had raised, trusted, and loved more than anything in the world, had chosen to side with her mother, helping to hide the truth rather than telling it to me. Anger bubbled up inside of me, but I forced myself to stay calm. I knew I could not go for a confrontation right away. That would only give her the opportunity to deny everything and evade the truth. I had to proceed cautiously, realize how deep this betrayal went, and only then decide what to do. In the morning, I woke up with a sense of cold determination. I went through my usual routine, smiling through the force, pretending nothing had changed. With every glance at Bethany and every time I saw Corey, the bitterness reminded itself like a poisonous bite. But I knew not to give away my emotions. Bethany thought she could get away with it, that I did not suspect anything. But she was wrong. I knew I was not going to confront her right away. I'd find out the whole truth first. Over the next few days, I started digging deeper. I wrote down everything that could confirm my hunch, tracked her expenses, examined receipts, and took screenshots of correspondence. Put together, these pieces of the puzzle became clearer and clearer, painting a picture of her cheating in front of me. One night, when Bethany and Corey were asleep, I snuck in her office and started looking for evidence. In one of her drawers, I found a receipt from an expensive restaurant across town. The date matched the night she said she was going to meet a friend. This finding, while significant, did not prove everything yet. So I moved on her phone, dialing a code I'd seen many times before. Of course, rummaging through her personal belongings was wrong, but now I needed to know the truth, no matter how bitter it was. The messages I read confirmed my worst fears. They were from a man signed as D, full of innuendo and confessions. Phrases like, "Yesterday was awesome," and "miss you," "when will we meet again," sounded like knife stabs. Each message stabbed into my heart, leaving deep wounds. I clutched my phone, feeling a wave of anger and grief wash over me. Bethany was not just lying, she had created a whole world outside of our marriage that even our daughter was involved in. I slowly put the phone back down so as not to wake her and left the room, trying not to make a sound. The next morning I sat at breakfast watching Bethany, who moved around the kitchen as if nothing had happened. She was joking around with Corey, and everything looked so ordinary that it made me twitch. I saw her, as if through glass, with her strained smile and flippant movements. Corey seemed to avoid meeting my gaze, her face remaining neutral, maybe even a little aloof. I could not look at her the way I used to. Everything had changed. She had chosen to cover up the cheating, to support the lies, rather than be honest with me. At work that day, I could barely focus. The anger and pain was unrelenting, demanding an outlet. I wanted to talk to someone to share this burden, but I knew this was my battle and I had to handle it on my own. So I began to plan my next steps. I continued to gather evidence, searching for any scrap of information so that the picture would become definitive and without doubt. After a few days, my efforts were crowned with success. In her desk drawer, I found a hidden cell phone that she must have used to contact him. Turning it on, I found a string of messages from D, full of intimate details and plans on how to spend time together. My hunch was completely confirmed. Bethany was not just cheating, she was leading a double life. Each new text distanced me from her, making the pain brighter and more tangible. I closed my phone and took a deep breath, trying to suppress the waves of rage. I could not just wake her up and make a scene that would give her a chance to lash out, to start making excuses, to make me doubt myself. No, I needed to leave it unanswered so she had nowhere to escape the truth. The next day, I sat at breakfast, watching Bethany make coffee. Her movements were familiar, but now seemed cold and empty. Corey, for her part, was trying to act normal, but a tense silence hovered between us. I remained silent, though I was seething inside. I kept up my usual routine, even though every minute with them was unbearable. I acted with restraint so as not to give myself away, but every glance at Bethany and Corey reminded me of how much they had betrayed me. I began to plan in detail what to do next. I did not want to have a drama or a confrontation filled with mutual accusations and excuses. I knew I would not get satisfaction that way, nor would I let them realize the depth of the pain they had inflicted on me. In the evenings, as they fell asleep, I continued my preparations. Quietly transferring money to a separate account, closing joint accounts, and exploring where I could start a new life. I realized that to survive this betrayal, I needed to go away and disappear, leave them alone in the void they had created for themselves. I found a small town on the coast, far enough away that they could never find me. This place promised the peace and quiet I needed. The decision to leave did not come easily to me. I pondered what things to take with me, what to leave behind. I chose a few things that were dear to me: old photographs, gifts from my parents, small trinkets that held memories of a time when everything seemed real. Everything else I left behind so they could feel the void I was about to create with my disappearance. On the last night, I walked through the house, remembering all the moments when laughter and love were heard here. Corey's childhood drawings still hung on the walls, drawings that used to warm my soul, but now only hurt me. But I had to do this. I had to put it all behind me and let Bethany feel the emptiness she brought into our lives. At dawn, I grabbed my bag and walked out of the house, leaving it quiet and sleeping. The cold morning air whipped across my face, bringing me back to reality. I got into my car and took one last look at our house, full of shadows of the past. As I drove away, a strange sense of finality spilled inside me. Everything that had once bound me to this place was now behind me. The first days in a new place were full of loneliness and silence, but there was a kind of peace about it. I rented a modest apartment overlooking the ocean and began to settle in. It was unusual to live alone, but it was necessary. I was slowly coming to my senses, letting my wounds heal. No one was stopping me from starting over, from building a life without the pain that had been inflicted on me. At first, the loneliness depressed me, but gradually I began to find my strength in it. Time passed slowly, and each new day in this quiet town felt like a step toward healing. I explored the coastal streets, enjoyed the fresh sea air, and studied the surrounding scenery that gave me a sense of freedom. It was unfamiliar, but also necessary to be in a place where no one knew me or my past. Slowly, I began to build a routine. I bought groceries at the local market, had breakfast at a small coffee shop by the shore, and occasionally sat on the beach watching the waves lazily roll in on the sand. My phone stayed off to avoid any memories of the past. I knew they were probably trying to contact me, but it did not matter anymore. I chose a new life, free of lies and betrayal. After a few months, I felt myself beginning to change. The anger that had tormented me and chased me away from the past was fading away, leaving behind only a slight sadness. I realized that I could smile while watching children playing on the beach or talking to the locals. I even managed to make a few new acquaintances, although I still kept my distance from people. One sunny morning, I was sitting in a small cafe when I heard a familiar voice. My heart sank, and I looked up to see an old friend, Dan, standing in the doorway with a surprised expression on his face. We stared at each other in silence until he, having recovered from his shock, walked over to me. "Is it really you?" he asked, taking a seat across from me. I nodded, feeling old emotions rising to the surface. "Yes, Dan, it is me," I replied, smiling demurely. We exchanged a few sentences before he got to the most important part. "You have no idea what happened after you disappeared," he said with a heavy sigh. I tensed, expecting to hear what I'd been guessing for a long time. "After you left, everything changed," he continued. Bethany quickly lost her reputation. At first, people sympathized with her, thinking she just could not handle you leaving. But soon rumors of her affair began to surface, and sympathy turned against her. Friends turned away. Her family did not support her either when they found out the truth. I listened, and each new fact he revealed gave me satisfaction. Bethany was facing the consequences of her choices, and I was no longer the only one who knew of her betrayal. "What about Corey?" I asked, feeling my heart clench inside. "They had a fight," Dan said with sadness in his voice. "Corey blamed her mother for breaking up the family and felt guilty for helping to keep it from you. She moved away after school and no longer keeps in touch with her." Those words hit me, but brought no pain or satisfaction. It was a completion, a final point in the story of my past. Dan continued talking, and I listened, feeling a strange mixture of relief and sadness. Bethany, who had lost friends, family, and ultimately her daughter, was facing the consequences of her actions. Everything she thought was stable and secure was crumbling before her eyes. My leaving was not just a surprise to her, but a catalyst that shattered the lies she had maintained for so long. "I did not think it would go this far," I said quietly, staring into my coffee cup. There was no triumph or pity in my voice. It was a statement of fact, nothing more. Dan looked at me carefully, his face expressing understanding and sympathy. "Sometimes leaving is the only way out," he said, sighing. "You did what you had to do." I do not know if any of us could have made the same decision. We sat in silence for a while, and I felt the past finally starting to go away. The story had been told, and the truth had been revealed. Now I had nothing more to figure out, nothing to keep me in my old place. This was the freedom I had been looking for all these years without even realizing it. When Dan left, I thanked him for sharing this part of the story with me. There was a lightness in my soul that I had not felt since it all began. I knew that despite all the blows and pain, I had found the strength to start over. That night, I walked out on the beach, watching the moon reflect in the water. The excitement of the ocean brought calmness, and I realized that my life had a new meaning. Bethany and Corey were no longer my anchors. They had become just a part of the past, shadows that remained over the horizon. In the weeks that followed, I continued my quiet existence in this coastal town. I became involved in the local community, went out for evening walks more often, and got to know people who saw me as just a new neighbor, not someone with a complicated history. Soon I began to think about giving something new a chance, though I was not in a hurry. There were moments when I felt ready to open my heart anew, but without pressure or rush. And then one day, I met Claire, a woman with whom conversations were easy and natural. She knew nothing about my old life, and it was liberating. We laughed, talked about trivia, and gradually grew closer. One evening, I ventured to tell her my story, to share what I was going through. She listened attentively, without judgment, and when I finished, she simply took my hand and smiled. Her support was silent, but there was a sincerity in it that helped me move on. With Claire, I found new meaning, a new phase that was not colored by the bitterness of the past. Every day, I felt stronger, wiser, and I realized that I had found my place in the world, a place where I could be happy. Life with Claire began to fill me with a light I had been deprived of for so long. We spent time together, not rushing anywhere and savoring every moment. With each new day, I could feel the wounds of the past heal, leaving only slight scars, reminders of what I'd been through and who I'd become. We walked along the coast together, laughing at funny life stories, sharing dreams. Claire was wise and kind. Her understanding and support helped me see that the world could still be a kind place, that trust could be built anew, one step at a time. I realized that I could be vulnerable without fear of betrayal. It was a new, healthy intimacy that I had long lost in my former life. One evening, as the sunset flooded the sky with shades of pink and orange, we sat on the beach, hugging each other and silently watching the waves. Claire looked at me, her eyes full of warmth and understanding. "I'm glad you found me," she said softly, and there was a sincerity in her words that made me want to do the same. "I'm glad I found me," I replied, smiling. For the first time in years, I felt whole. The past that used to hang over me like a dark cloud was now just a part of my history, a part of who I had become. Bethany and Corey remained somewhere far away, in another world, another time. I knew I would never forget the lessons they had taught me, but I also knew I would never let those memories define my life again. As time went on, I began to open up to other people in the town. I joined a local photography group and began to share my shots of nature and cityscapes that I loved to take on my walks. The locals appreciated my talent, and it gave me confidence. I found the courage to get involved in community events, helping to organize exhibitions and outdoor activities. Claire was always there for me, supporting and encouraging me. We became inseparable, but our relationship developed naturally, without pressure or expectations. It was a free, easy partnership built on trust and respect. One warm summer evening, when the stars shone brightly in the night sky, I realized that I had found happiness again. It was not the same as before, but it was good. It was real, mature, and complete. I knew now that the pain I had been through was not in vain. It had made me stronger, wiser, and allowed me to redefine what it meant to love and be loved. Sitting on the beach with Claire, I looked out at the vast ocean, feeling grateful for this new phase in my life. I was free of the past, and I had a life ahead of me, full of possibilities that I had built for myself. And that's where today's story ends. Thank you for watching to the end. If you enjoyed it, do not forget to like and comment. We'd love to discuss this story with you. See you in the next video.